In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the mid-year discount convention, which is commonly used at investment banks when you're doing a discounted cash flow analysis, as we are right here. Now, to explain the motivation behind this, recall that when we calculated the present value of free cash flow in each year, we did it by using this normal discount period, is what I've labeled it over here. So we said that in 2010, this 12.8 billion worth of free cash flow, we're discounting this by 1 because this is coming in at the end of 2010. And then 2011, we're discounting this by 2 because this is coming in at the end of the second year, and so on and so forth. But the problem here is that if you think about it, we're actually discounting it by too much here. Because in 2010, this unlevered free cash flow of 12.8 billion, it's not really coming entirely at the end of the year. It's coming in quarter 1, quarter 2, Q3, Q4. So it's really coming in throughout the year. It's not all coming at the end. And so when we discount it, we don't want to use these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's implying that the entire cash flow amount is arriving at the end of the year. Instead, what we want to do is adjust, and we want to make the assumption that the cash flow is arriving evenly throughout the course of the year. To do that, we're going to use something called the mid-year discount convention. And the basic idea here is that rather than using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the discount periods, instead we use 0.5, and then 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5. And this lets us simulate the fact that the cash flow is actually arriving throughout the course of the year rather than entirely at the end. Now, this is just how you set up the mid-year discount when you're working with full years here. If you have stub periods, so if you have a quarter or 2 quarters or 3 quarters, then it gets more complex to do this, and we're not going to get into that. But this is something that's good to know, at least the basics of this, because it could potentially come up in interviews, and you will see it a lot of times at banks when you're actually doing a DCF analysis. So all we have to do to now take advantage of this is to modify our present value of free cash flow formula, and we want to be using the mid-year discount period now instead. We see that, as expected, the present value actually jumps up because we're now using 0.5 rather than 1 for our discount period. I'm just going to copy this across with Alt-ESF. We see the sum of the present value of cash flows here has not changed dramatically, but it still has changed by around 3 or 4 billion, which shows that the mid-year discount, even something small like this, can have a relatively large impact on our DCF analysis. So that's the motivation behind why we use a mid-year discount to more accurately reflect the fact that the cash flow is arriving throughout the year rather than entirely at the end. That's the motivation behind it, and then that's how we actually implement it. We use 0.5, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we modify the present value formula here to be using the mid-year discount period rather than the normal discount period. So that's the mid-year discount. Coming up in the next set of videos, we're going to look at how you actually calculate the terminal value of the company. Remember that in a DCF analysis, there are 2 parts: the present value of the cash flows, and then the present value of the terminal value. And we need to look at both of these and sum them up to arrive at the company's total value at the end. So we're going to be getting into that in the next video, and we'll look at how you calculate the terminal value of a company using 2 different methodologies.